Good evening. You are watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. The UN Special Envoy for Yemen values efforts exerted by His Majesty the Sultan for a peaceful solution in Yemen. The specialists affirm that the Sultanate is suitable for generating electricity from solar energy. And the culture effects on Omani architecture and its development throughout time is highlighted at the Omani Architecture Symposium in Muscat. Those were the headlines. Now for the news in detail. His Majesty Sultan Qaboos has sent a cable of greetings to His Excellency Dr. President Tabari Vasquez of Uruguay on his country's independence anniversary. UN Special Envoy for Yemen, Ismail Wald Sheikh Ahmed, stressed the importance of the Omani role to help in reaching a settlement for the crisis in Yemen. He said that the UN highly values the efforts exerted by the Sultanate for the peace. He pointed out that Muscat remains always an important destination in achieving this purpose, thanks to its status and positive role with all parties. That came when he met in Muscat today with His Excellency Yusuf bin Alawi bin Abdullah, Minister responsible for foreign affairs, and a number of officials in the Sultanate within the framework of efforts being exerted by the UN to peacefully settle the conflict in the Yemeni Republic. In a statement to Sultanate of Oman Radio and Television, Ismail Wald Sheikh Ahmed pointed out that Kuwait talks to solve the Yemeni crisis did not fail, but rather paved the way for more discussions to different issues and viewpoints of all parties. Regarding the meeting due to be held tomorrow in Jeddah in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, he said the meeting emphasizes the Gulf support to find a way out of the Yemeni crisis and expects the meeting would come up with a comprehensive support to the UN's plan to resolve the Yemeni crisis. According to specialists, the Sultanate is considered one of the best countries to produce solar energy, which is an opportunity to find cheap alternatives for oil and gas to generate electricity and to diversify sources of energies in the Sultanate. The Sultanate's climate conditions are the most amenable to use the solar energy to generate electricity, get cooling and heating for personal and industrial uses. Renewable Energies Laboratory in Suhar University, considered as a pioneer in this field, which ranked its works in first position at the world level in using solar cells in 2014. Research Council was the main supporter and partner for the formation of Renewable Energies Laboratory in the Suhar University. Still to come in our news bulletin. In Myanmar, the peacocks are becoming increasingly endangered.
هنا الرائحة العالقة بالذاكرة تأخذنا دهشة مختلفة لتبهرنا بجمالها الآسر، حيث ملتقى الأسرة. امنح نفسك شغف التجربة، فهنا حكاية الجمال لا تنتهي. مهرجان صلال السياحي 2016 من 15 من يوليو إلى 31 من أغسطس. عمان، المحبة والوئام.
Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. Discussing means of cooperation in information field between the Sultanate and Jordan topped the discussion at the meeting of His Excellency Dr. Abdel Menachem bin Mansour Al-Hsani, Minister of Information, with Dr. Mohammed Al-Mu'mini, Minister of State for Information Affairs of Jordan. During the meeting in Amman, His Excellency the Minister of Information stressed the importance of Jordanian media experience and working to train a number of workers in the Sultanate to be journalists in various media means. From his side, the Jordanian Minister of State for Information and Communication Affairs showed his country's readiness to provide means of cooperation to the Sultanate in the communications field. Omani architecture development and its main features in various levels topped the Omani Architecture Symposium. It focused on Omani architecture development, banks and schools architecture, as well as the cultural effects. More details in the following report by Sultan bin Saif al-Sarai.
A symposium about architecture in Oman was organized in the Cultural Club. It focused on 5 main points to talk about the Omani architecture over various periods. The first point talked about architecture in the Omani cities, and it touched the economic, social and environmental transformations. It also focused on the environmental factors such as temperature and its effects on the old Omani buildings, as well as other factors that affect cities' creation.
This symposium is about the development of architectural engineering in Oman at different periods, at least from 1970s up to date. It covers a few themes. One of the theme is about the general architectural development in Oman.
Schools architecture in Oman was the second point, and it discussed schools buildings development over the last 4 decades, and it focused on schools different buildings in terms of their space, the general look, the administrative rooms, learning resources centers and laboratories.
The architectural engineer is very important for any environment, for any country, because it shows the first things what the country having. If it's improved from past to now, we can see it in the architectural buildings and feature what have in their own environment.
The third point shed lights on banks' architecture development in the Sultanate, where it focused on banks' buildings' history in the past and present, and its symbols which derived from the environment, as well as its continents and the factors which have been affected by.
I just presented a research paper about the bank architecture development in Oman, and it is focusing on the different styles adapted in bank architecture.
In the fourth and fifth points, they talked about the cultural impact on the Omani architecture and its role at forming the identity over generations, where forts and castles were the forefront of the Omani architecture art and its effect on the current architecture. In addition, they shed lights on masjids, libraries, and villages in terms of their beautiful architecture.
The number of visitors to the educational website Vocational Guidance reached more than 75,000. The website enables students to familiarize themselves with the vocational tracks and study programs to be compatible with their study subjects from 10th to the 12th grades. The students enter their obtained marks at the exam, and the website will choose the best and appropriate study program and specialization for them. This process will help students save time and efforts through registering online to the Admission Center website applications, which is available on smartphones with Android system. A guideline book will also be available online. The peacock has long been one of Myanmar's most prominent national symbols, but while the bird is a common sight in government ministries and souvenir stands, the real thing is becoming harder and harder to spot. Here is a report.
The peacock is one of Myanmar's most beloved animals and an enduring national symbol. Its image hangs on the walls of government ministries and makes a popular memento for visitors to the country. And for almost 30 years, Aung San Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy, now in government, has used the bird as its party emblem.
Our country used the peacock as a symbol of dignity. It was used during the era of the Burmese kings. At that time, there was also a peacock image on our currency. We called them peacock coins.
Wild peacocks were once widespread in Asia, ranging from northern India across to Indonesia. But in Myanmar, the colourful birds, officially known as the green peafowl, are becoming increasingly endangered. Many of their habitats have been destroyed, and in rural areas they're hunted for their meat.
It's easy to capture them in places where they live because they always walk on the ground and they sleep in trees at night. And before they go to sleep, they always cry, "Away, away." That's why people can easily know where they are and easily capture them.
The Wildlife Conservation Society estimates that only 2,000 of the birds are left in the wild in Myanmar. It says if they're to survive, greater awareness among rural communities is vital.
The most important thing is to educate and inform the people about how these peacocks are precious for human beings and how Myanmar should be proud to have peacocks.
While the birds are theoretically protected by Myanmar's wildlife laws, enforcement is weak. If that doesn't change soon, the peacock's shimmering feathers may only be visible behind bars.
Now for the general weather forecast around the Sultanate. Cloudy skies will prevail over the coastal areas of the governorate of Dhofar and its nearby mountains with intermittent drizzle. Rest of the Sultanate will have clear skies with cloud accumulation and scattered rainfall over the Hajar Mountains. Low clouds and fog late at night and early morning are expected over the coastal areas of the Arabian Sea. Winds will be northeasterly, light to moderate over the coasts of Sea of Oman, while on the coastal areas of the Arabian Sea, it will be southwesterly, moderate to active. Seas will be rough along the coasts of the Arabian Sea with a maximum wave height of 3.5 meters and slight along the rest of the coasts with a maximum wave height of 1.25 meters. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. The UN Special Envoy for Yemen values efforts exerted by His Majesty the Sultan for a peaceful solution in Yemen. The specialists affirm that the Sultanate is suitable for generating electricity from solar energy. And And the cultural effects on Omani architecture and its development throughout time is highlighted at the Omani Architecture Symposium in Muscat. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsroom and the studios, it's good night.